Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, excuse me, and I just got back from Whitefish, Montana, and I'm going to be sharing some of the video with you of when I went out there. I'm scared of heights, as you know, but that's not the best story. I'll go ahead and tell you the best story. So I told my wife that she wanted to go hiking in Glacier National Park, and I asked her if we needed bear spray, and she said no, because she has a friend that lives out there. She said no, you hardly ever see bears up there. And so we did not get bear spray, and we went up one of the walking trails. It was myself and my kids and my mother-in-law, and we're walking up this walking trail, and I took a picture of the boys, and then like 2 or 3 minutes after I took that picture, we're walking up the side of this trail, and my youngest, my 13-year-old, says, "Dad, do you hear that?" Now, I've done a lot of deer hunting in my lifetime, and so I know what a deer crashing through the woods sounds like, and this sounded a lot heavier than a deer crashing through the woods, and we could see kind of up the hill. We could hear the bushes cracking and the trees cracking up there, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't like the sound of this at all. And about that time, a full-grown grizzly bear steps out, and he looked. It was spooky. This bear looked straight at us, and I literally froze. He looked at us, licked his lips, and he was like shaking his head and all, like I guess he was foraging and whatnot. But he looked, and I'm talking about, that's kind of a creepy feeling when a grizzly bear, full grown, not a small one, a full grown grizzly bear looks straight at you, and you see his big, huge tongue lick his lips. So I slowly started backing out of there, and my mother-in-law was a school teacher, and as I'm backing out of there, I hear her go, "Oh, look, it's a grizzly bear," as if, "Oh yeah, let's go get a closer look." And I'm like, she's approaching it like a scientist, and I've been told stories since I was a kid from my grandfather about, grizzly bears killing people and all this. But anyway, so we backed out of there, and then we passed people on the trail that were walking towards where we had just come from. And I told someone, I said, "Look, we just saw a full-grown grizzly bear," and they're like, "Oh, cool," and kept walking. And that, my friends, is what you call natural selection. I saw the same thing when I went to Jackson Hole. 2 baby grizzly bears. Every show I've ever seen on grizzly bears, it says if there's bear cubs, don't go anywhere near them because the mother will kill you to protect the babies. And all the tourists are running towards the baby bears. And so, again, that's called natural selection. It is a thing. But I'll show you some video. We had a really good time. I've been to a lot of these mountain areas, and the crazy part is that I'm scared of heights. But I go up these mountains anyway, just because I'm not going to let life pass me by. And you'll see. I'll show you the video. Okay. I saw this while I was on vacation. 5 million XRP, over 5 million XRP, stolen from George Jones's widow by her boyfriend. It was on a ledger in their safe. Now let me read a little bit of this to you. This is how it happened. I guess that's the guy. The granddaughter discovered the $400,000 in cash missing from the safe, along with the ledger wallet, which contained approximately 5.53 million units of the digital currency XRP based on the affidavit. Since each token was reportedly valued at $2.10 at the time on the date of the theft, that was 11.6 million worth of crypto at the time. The total value that was stolen crypto has increased to 17.045 million Friday, July 25th. Police said West was the only person besides Nancy Jones who had a private key, essentially PIN code, to access the wallet. With the help of attorneys, they were able to recover approximately 5.051 million of those, but still lost 483,000 XRP, and those were worth about 1.5 million. Folks, there's several lessons here. The first lesson is, or the first question is, so you're telling me the famous, mega famous people like George Jones owned XRP? But the bigger lesson here, I mean, there's a lot of them too, folks. There's a bigger lesson here, though. The bigger lesson is, yes, you should be able to we should all be able to use self-custody if that's what we want to do. But that is not, I repeat, that is not what people with significant amounts of money are going to do, because it opens them up not just to stuff like this where it's somebody you know, like a boyfriend, to try to steal it. It also opens you up to all kinds of bad guys if they find out that you've got stuff like this on a hard wallet. And then there's another dynamic. The other problem is, what happens when this was always my nightmare when I used to keep things on the hard wallets. I was like, God, if something happens to me, I mean, these things are complicated to deal with if you're into this. But I was always freaked out. I was like, what if something happens to me? Is my wife going to really be able to figure all this out? And the thing is, she would have struggled with it, just like, and just imagine people that are not in this. And I've had several conversations with my father about this. This is a big part of the reason that I've moved most of my XRP to iTrustCapital, so that I've got institutional custody. This is what all the big money, everybody keeps talking about trillions of dollars coming to crypto. Big money, wealthy people are not going to be using that kind of stuff. They're going to do it the same way that they've done it for years with stocks, bonds, and all their wealth. They're going to have it with a legitimate firm, and all of these things are going to be held in institutional custody the same way that their stocks and bonds and all this have been held in institutional custody with their large brokerage accounts and all that. That's where this industry is going. That's where most of this wealth is going to be, and that's just the fact, Jack. And it's all the not your keys, not your crypto stuff. Okay, that's been fine for the last 10 years, but that's not. Just think about this. We keep talking about how they're going to tokenize bonds and stocks. And I asked a guy this one time at XRP Las Vegas that he was arguing for the self-custody wallet and all this, and how that was that was how this is all supposed to be and all this. And I said, okay, so let's say you get wealthy with your XRP. Are you going to, and then let's say you buy $1 million worth of tokenized municipal bonds with some of your winnings. Are you really going to have those $1 million of tokenized bonds on some hard wallet? Even if this guy does, 99% of these people will never do anything like that. It's not going to happen. The adults in the room, these people they're now saying are going to be accumulating 10 to 40%. That's going to be 10 to 40% of their portfolio is going to be in crypto. It's going to be in institutional custody. And that's the fact, Jack. These guys you get institutional custody for free on iTrustCapital. You can open an IRA. You can do a premium custody account like I did. Send your XRP right into it. And all you have to do is go to iTrustCapital.com/XRP Army. They've even got a promo code that'll give you $100 when you open your account. I did it. Everybody, we're at 3.94 trillion. XRP is creeping back up. We're at 323. Everybody can feel it. Mike Alfred, who is a Bitcoin maxi, anytime these guys start to get scared of the XRP prices going up, they start tweeting. XRP is an IQ test, and a lot of people are failing. That gene pool is ankle deep for some of these Bitcoin maxis. Here's the performance of XRP versus Bitcoin over the last year. Mike must not have looked at the chart. Chad Steingraber, we're no longer in crypto cycles of running up massively, then dumping out. Institutional adoption brings run-ups, consolidation, then run up again, repeat. Forever XRP. I like it. Charles Hoskinson says something similar. this is a great clip.
Curious if you think the 4-year cycle is still intact.
No, it's a different cycle. It's something different going on, and I don't even think we're close to the peak of the bull market. People have gotten so pessimistic and cynical that they're like, "Oh, the market's dead," and we've ballooned. It's like, dude, clarity's not even passed yet. When clarity gets passed, the Bag 7 are going to enter the cryptocurrency space. You're going to have stable coins go above 1 to 2 trillion in issuance. You're going to have real world assets come in. The total market cap aggregate is going to be over 10 trillion. And so I call this the Giga Chad bull run. It's like the biggest bull run we've ever had. And when Bitcoin starts stalling, then the alts will pop. And so you're going to see great ratios that come from this whole thing. And it'll die off a little bit, but it's like every time you have these windows, you go to new all-time highs and then you stay at new all-time lows. And so it's no longer a 4-year cycle because it's not retail led anymore. It's more led by institutions and it's more led by massive investors. But simply put, there's just too much going on. The inventories on Bitcoin are too low. You got these DATs injecting gargantuan amounts of money into the market, and there's no way not to see a bull run. From all.
When do you think we hit? Wait, so what are we at today? 4 trillion, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 4 trillion. When do you think we hit 10 trillion?
Before the end of the cycle, and I think the cycle will last throughout 2026 because clarity is going to be the catalyst. I think that really bootstraps it up. And the only reason why we haven't super taken off was that there was an irrational exuberance when Trump got elected, and then it didn't immediately pay off, and so people got a little crazy about it. And then the tariffs and all the macroeconomic stuff kind of shook the market a little bit. But people are starting to look at crypto as a counter-cyclic and as a hedge asset to the collapse of the U.S. dollar or to inflation or other such things. So we'll get where we need to go, as an industry and a market, and especially when the fourth generations come in and they bring in all the real world assets, because then suddenly you have all these yield products that come in that give 10%, 20%, whether it be launch insurance, for rockets or exotic microfinance plays or whatever the hell it is. They'll come in and then it'll just tract a ton.
Oh, it's coming, all right. And then here he is talking about the politics behind the scenes.
Let's get to politics a little bit. I mean, so there was this New York Times article the other day, and you got basically it says there's like the people who shaped crypto in the United States. You got a big picture of Trump here, and you've got Bill Zanker,
right,
you got David Sachs, you got who do we have here? Eric Trump. Who else do we have here? You've got David Bailey, Brad Garlinghouse, and you have you right here. And there's only like 10 people on this list. So you mentioned you're a Ron Paul guy. So what do you make of just the politics in America today?
Well, I mean, we're a 3 planks of government. You have judicial, executive, and legislative. And during the evils of the Biden administration, the only thing that saved our industry was the judiciary. The judges stepped in and said the SEC does not have the authority to do for this gargantuan overreach. And it started swatting them down. And the repudiations got worse and worse as the abuses of power grew. But it was the last stand, because if the judges stood with the executive branch, we would have been fucked as an industry. So now we're in a situation where Trump has enabled and empowered the legislative branch, because of the Republican majority, to actually pass laws to restructure and rebuild the entire U.S. view of the cryptocurrency side. So what happened was that after he got elected, created crypto czar, very fluid time, and it wasn't clear who was going to be that. I think Elon Musk picked David Sachs.
All right, we won't play any more of that, but you kind of get it. And here I'm not going to play this, but he's talking about the midnight airdrop. XRP holders are going to receive that airdrop too. It's coming soon, based on what he's saying. XRP well just opened up at $11.4 million long at 329. Then we've got I'm skipping over some of this because I wanted to get to everything. Confirmation Society Generale used Ripple for custody for their Euro stablecoin. I want to play you this one though.
Is the one of the most recent post, which I commented on your LinkedIn, which is this payment systems that you had a session with Ripple. Tell me about it. I mean, like Paul Zello, Ripple. I was like, how did these two come together?
It's a really good question. and all this blockchain stuff and all of it. I don't get it. I'll be the first to admit it. But I'm trying to understand. My 32-year-old son, who's a bit more savvy to all of this stuff, he put his hard-earned dollars in buying some shares in Ripple. And he doesn't part with his money easily. In fact, he'd rather buy these shares and pay the money he owes back mum and dad, which I wasn't really impressed about, but that's another story. But that sort of made me stand up and take a little bit of notice.
Right.
And again, I'm not an expert on it, but I understand. They approached us some time ago, but at the time they were battling some legal battle in the US. And our position to them was, look, come back to us once that's sorted out, because you only get one chance at a first impression. And if this court case doesn't go well for you, it wasn't good. So anyway, they got a good result in the US court case, and they approached us again. And look, we're going to have a bit more of a look at it. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on it, but we may look to promote their product. And again, it'll be buyer beware. We'll say to our members, look, here's this new technology. From what I can understand, it can generate real-time transfer of payments. And they seem to have a lot of checks and balances in place. At the briefing that I was at, where I did that post, there was a lot of representatives from the major banks that were very interested in it. So it is a real thing. But how that translates to meaningful solutions for our members, we'll only understand that in a bit more time.
They're all coming. President Trump says U.S. has reached a trade deal with the EU. And then this is Howard Lutnick talking about...
So the tariff revenues are amazing, right? $700 billion a year. That's just net new money the government never had before. So you take that...
You gotta like that. Here's from Smoke. November 2025 ISO 222 deadline will enable new digital asset use cases. Right there, enables... This transition is more than a compliance deadline. It's a structural shift towards enriched data, interoperability, and future-proof infrastructure that enables the new digital asset use cases. And then here's a great reminder. I remember covering this video back in maybe 2019, 20-ish.
That is...
This guy right here is David Andolfato, Federal Reserve. I can't remember which Federal Reserve.
People say, how can you trust, the Fed to do the bookkeeping? I mean, like I say, my response is, you don't expect the Fed to kind of steal your money. I mean, if the Fed can print all the money at once, it's not going to mess around with your bookkeeping. So, we have this big spreadsheet, the blockchain if you want, but it's just managed by the Fed, and it's very cheap, much cheaper than Bitcoin, if you're willing to delegate the responsibility to a third party. But then the downsides to all of that, of course, is you'd actually suppose you didn't want the Fed to be responsible for processing the payments. I mean, suppose, the Fed will likely impose some KYC restrictions on some purchases. They might not process some purchases that you might want to undertake. And so it was at that point that I said, well, we could, if we wanted to, extend the concept one step further. I'm not saying that this is ever going to happen, but just conceptually, you could imagine not FedWire for all, but kind of like a FEDCoin, where what the Fed would do is actually just issue these, Bitcoin-like objects, but and they would enforce a par exchange rate with the U.S. dollar. That would eliminate the exchange rate volatility. But they could delegate the clearing of these payments to some third party, some sort of Ripple-like protocol, or possibly even Bitcoin. I mean, we could delegate the responsibility of processing these electronic, FedCoin payments to the miners. And the idea there would be,
delegated to a third party. Says this explains Ripple's pursuit of the Fed master account directly settle central bank money using XRP ledger. Folks, who would be in? Basically, my understanding is the Fed master account. It would put control of RLUSD under the Fed. Would it issuance? I don't know how that would work. But we are we've been so close. I mean, it's not even funny how right we've been about all this stuff. FEDCoin. Okay, we're going to go in DAIXRP.com. I got a lot more to talk about. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there today. Go to DAIXRP.com if you'd like to join the Patreon. If you'd rather join through YouTube, click the join button below any of my YouTube videos. And you can also join through X by hitting the subscribe button. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.